Hey everyone, welcome back to 22 Panels. This is the podcast that aims to examine, explore, and elevate the medium of comics. And across the interwebs, from me is my good buddy Tad. Hey Tad.
Getting better at that, Tyler.
Those thwips, those Spidey thwips
Yeah,
are
those
getting pretty good.
thwips. We were originally thinking about getting like finding a sound effect mark, but Tyler's enjoyed working on the actual verbal thwip
Yeah,
thwip.
I prefer the indie approach myself.
Yeah, that we've decided that we're gonna stick with it now.
Yeah,
So our guest tonight for I think the third time, or is it the fourth?
I don't know. It's
Third or
been
fourth time, um, is Mark Russell. Uh, Definitely a favorite of the 22 Panels podcast. Um, how's it going, Mark?
It's going pretty good.
Yeah, you got a couple of books coming out this week
Yep.
because we've
I'm
got
like uh
our,
I'm like
our
an
collection
insect.
of collection of Rumpus Room and the second issue of Batman Dark Age #2. Well, no, Batman Dark Age issue two. Second issue and then #2 is repetitive,
it's redundant.
but
Yeah, but yeah, very much
it's been a
looking
long
forward to
day.
both of those.
Thanks.
So, and I know I want to talk about traveling to Mars. But what do you want to start with tonight, Mark?
Yeah, why don't we talk about those since they're brand new and
I
people
figured.
will have a chance. So,
Pick one.
So
okay,
how? I
let's
was
start with Rumpus Room then.
Rumpus Room.
Okay. Rumpus Room is like I loved it, but I think it's the darkest thing you've ever done. I
Yeah,
mean,
I've been
maybe
going through some
Deadbox was
things.
darker. but
Yeah.
but Rumpus, I mean, our basic Tyler, did you read Rumpus Room?
Yeah,
I know I kept telling you to.
yeah.
Uh, Our basic premise is you've got this billionaire that like anybody he doesn't.
Did Tad freeze?
Yeah, he froze.
Okay. I was
I
like,
guess we'll call it. But his bait into facial cream. I mean,
Yeah, it's sort of a grand metaphor for how uh our democratic institutions and rights have really been limited to the point where we're deciding who the next person is that's going to get crushed and turned into facial cream for billionaires. About how the decision making that we're allowed as American voters and as the American public are really limited to what order we want to fall prey to the capital class. And so that's what it's really sort of a big metaphor for.
that's about right. It's about right.
yeah.
And I think it's one of the reasons why American politics has gotten so divisive,
Yeah.
because I feel like we all feel like we're on the chopping block, that we're all on the the brink of being voted into the cage, and
Right.
so we all feel like winning is a matter of life and death because we've made it such, because we've allowed.
Unfortunately, really, one party is flawed but doesn't actually want to throw us in the cage, and the other party, yeah, wants to throw us in the cage, and too many people think of them as the same.
Yeah, and I think that. Well, and I think also, it's like the people who, I mean, they talk about how um, Trump or the populist right is fueled by economic anxiety and what. Well, who's created the economic
Right.
anxiety?
Right.
It's the people that have like
Yeah.
increasingly,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, fed us like dog treats to the capital class.
Yes,
They're the
it's
ones creating
well,
the.
but and that's how it's less economic anxiety than racism, because it's like
Yeah,
we're going to make you economically anxious, and then we're going to point at the brown people and say it's
yeah,
because the government's giving too much money to them.
Right.
yeah. The greatest trick the devil ever played was convincing poor white people they are on the same side as white billionaires.
Right. Pretty much.
It's what has allowed them to sort
Yeah.
of divide us and
Yeah.
get like large swaths of people to vote against their interest. It's the only way in which the lowering taxes for billionaires and lowering protections for employees and workers and workplace regulations. The only way those are democratically tenable at all is if you get those people to go along with that, because they also think they're getting something else. And in
Well,
this case,
and don't forget, they convinced them that Democrats eat babies.
Yeah. Well, and I think that the sort of trick the right found for this sort of right wing, you know, pro billionaire populism
Yeah.
was that they just pretend that it's only black people getting all of these benefits.
Yeah.
They came up with the trope of the welfare queen. Like it's
Yeah.
only black people who are, getting
Well,
WIC
and illegal immigrants.
money. Yeah. Or that are only getting like rent control or only getting, Medicaid. Whereas most people getting those things are poor white people.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
they've
and also, they go out of their way to dumb down education because you don't want white Texans to understand that most of the brown people living there have had their families living there for longer than the white people have been living there.
yeah, like Texas
'Cause,
was
like,
Mexico.
right.
150 years ago. It's not like most of the people in Texas didn't cross the border from Mexico. It's like they were in
The
Mexico when
border
Texas.
crossed them.
Yeah.
Right. Same with Arizona, same with New Mexico. Hence, New Mexico.
Right. You would think if nothing else, yeah, that the name of the state might be a clue.
Well, I mean, that might be the reason that it's the one that hasn't actually had a ridiculous immigrant law.
If you live in a state that has a Spanish sounding name, chances are that
It was
the
once-
original, yeah, it was not like a suburb, a white suburb in the beginning.
That's a good rule. I mean, what I actually love the most about the Texas history, if you like dig into it, Texas became a state because Mexico invited non-Hispanic settlers to become Mexicans with really only one rule. I mean, two rules, but one of them was really kind of flimsy. The flimsy one was you were supposed to become Catholic, but how do you check that? And the one that was supposed to be firm was was no slaves. Because Mexico had already decided slavery bad.
Right.
So all these white Southerners came in and ignored the slavery thing. And Mexico said, we don't like that. And that's when they declared independence.
Right.
So it was entirely to expand slavery. Entirely to expand slavery. That is their entire reason that they're not Mexico. But they're this proud American state.
Yeah, I think that, a lot of the attempts to sort of erase the inconvenient facts from history really just kind of add to the whiplash effect that for those who find out the truth.
Right.
It just serves to radicalize people more when they find out how much they've been lied to.
Yeah, and I guess what infuriates
I
me
mean,
the
when I
most,
went to school, they never taught anything.
oh, I know. I mean, we were in the generation where, states' rights became big in the history books for why the Civil War happened.
Well, we got the Schoolhouse Rock version of history. It's like,
Right.
the American settlers just wanted to be independent of the King of England, and America's this great melting pot where everybody has like an opportunity, and it's always been that way.
Oh yes,
You
a
know,
melting pot of white Europeans with white
Yeah.
Europeans
and
and more white
and
Europeans.
I can understand why you teach first and second graders this sort of very broad, not very
I don't
not
even know
very
why
gritty
I mean,
version of American history. But as you become able to grasp a more complex narrative, shouldn't you be fed the more complex narrative?
I don't
And
even
I
think.
think that,
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, but I don't even think we need to wait that long. I mean, we don't necessarily need to
No.
give the nitty-gritty because, among other things, it's so much more interesting of a story. I mean,
Right.
there isn't much to be
Yeah.
proud of in America with the whitewash narrative. They like to talk about how, oh, you want us to be ashamed of. I'm not ashamed to be an American. I'm proud that we went from here and got to where we are now. I'm kind of ashamed that somehow there's like this portion of the country that's bigger than I like to think of, that somehow thinks going back there is better than continuing to go forward.
Right.
Well, I think that denial of history's crimes, in fact, makes you complicit in them.
Exactly.
Whereas I don't think you share any moral guilt for slavery or for the extermination of the Native Americans that happened on this continent if you are honest about that's what's happened and you are okay with undoing the institutions that cause it to
now
continue
let's
to
be
happen.
better. Right.
And but if you are denying that it happened, or you are trying to perpetuate the institutions that these great crimes created, then you are complicit in the crimes. And I think this is really what it is. It's not about this history divisive or children are not ready for this. I think it's just more like I want to continue being complicit in this crime and nobody knowing. I want to like hide the gun that has my prints on it.
Right. This actually reminds me, and I'm gonna go. We didn't talk about talking about this, but you're very involved with the Northwest Museum of Comic Arts, right? You guys are kickstarting.
Yeah, I'm on the board. Yeah.
Hey, you guys are kickstarting your first.
Yes,
exhibit.
we are.
And
yeah, we're gonna do a first brick and mortar exhibit. That's what the Kickstarter's to fund, getting sort of a pop-up space.
That's awesome.
And it's devoted to Northwest cartooning. And the only reason this popped into my head is I know that in the Northwest, other places too, I see a lot of people who go out of their way to when they're having events, when they're giving speeches to make a point of honoring the land that they're on and who was there first. And I wondered, because I haven't gone through who you're highlighting in your first exhibit. Is there going to be any indigenous representation? Are there Northwestern indigenous?
That's a good question. I don't have a comprehensive list of all of the
and that's fine.
Of all of the exhibitees. But yeah, no, it's a great point though. I mean, there should be. I don't know if there isn't or that there is, but
I mean, I know we were just talking recently about what indigenous nerds, the Iron Circus anthology from a couple years that was kickstarted, I think last year, is coming out in comic shops either next week or it's just on final order cutoff. So I know that we've got those indigenous cartoonists out there. So it popped into my head because of what you said. This is how I roll, Mark. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Dad is a very stream of consciousness type of guy. But yeah, let's.
But I'm pretty sure they're still compiling the list of exhibitees.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I will remind everybody that it's kickstarting right now. If you want to
look up NWMOCA on Kickstarter, and you will find it.
Right. That there are 17 days to go, and I hope that you've got a flexible goal, because otherwise we need to get the word out a lot.
Yeah, we do. I'm trying to do that myself, in my own social media circles. So anything anyone could do to help at this point, would be great. It's just hard to do a Kickstarter now because, I mean, before when I would do a Kickstarter, I did maybe like 100% of my promotion on Twitter.
Yeah.
Right.
And now it's like Twitter's kind of a dead mule. It's like, so where do you promote a Kickstarter campaign anymore?
Everything I do is on Blue Sky, but Blue Sky doesn't have quite the reach that Twitter.
No, Blue Sky's my favorite. It's my favorite social media platform now.
Definitely.
But I think maybe part of what makes it sort of more fun is the fact that it is smaller, the fact that you don't have like layers of anonymous bots and trolls sort of like word searching your conversations.
So one thing that I wanted to talk about was Batman Dark Age. So did this roll out of you getting to do the Superman Space Age story, or
was it always planned, or was it okay?
It was not always planned, but we did have a lot of Batman that got left out of the Superman Space Age because there was too much Batman, and it was ultimately a book about Superman.
Sure,
So I had these additional stories. I thought, well, I would love to do these. And plus, it was just so much fun working with the Allreds. We thought we really want to do this again.
for sure.
So the next natural step was to do a follow-up book to Superman Space Age that revolved around Batman, using some of these stories that didn't make it into the initial one, as sort of the core around which to build the second book. Although I will say that this book, unlike Superman Space Age, takes place, or I should maybe like Superman Space Age, takes place in a different universe. It's not the same universe as the one in Superman Space Age, but it's also one that it's like facing destruction by the Anti-Monitor in the Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Okay.
So it's a similar premise, just a slightly different universe.
Slightly different universe from Superman Space Age. So
Yeah.
you're just trying to go all over the place.
Well, the theme is, and we're hoping to do a third book too, but the theme is that these are all universes that are doomed by the Anti-Monitor, that are
Okay.
going to die,
Okay.
but seen through the lens of a different hero.
Okay.
So if we get to do a third book, it'll be about the same thing, but seen through the eyes of Wonder Woman.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice. Nice. You did make a really, really interesting decision. Um, that caught my attention. I'm kind of curious as to how that came about because Bruce wasn't present for the
Right. He
defining
wasn't there
moment.
at the murder.
Um, I mean, how did you come to that decision? Was there push? I mean, that's one of the most iconic origin stories ever. I don't think I've ever seen anybody be able to like the closest to real alterations to it was like Batman 89 making Joe Chill the Joker,
Yeah.
right?
Jack Napier. Yeah.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so A, like
Well,
bravo for having the guts. B, how did you, if it's not giving too much of something later on away, how did you decide to do that? And C, was there DC pushback? Did you have to sell the idea, or were
no,
they like,
DC
yeah,
didn't
do it?
mind at all.
Okay.
I think they were like, do it, because I think that's sort of the understanding of these books, that this is a slightly different universe that died, in the
Okay.
Crisis on Infinite Earths. So there's not the problem of like this being out of continuity, but the artistic reasons of why I chose to do that were, one, the as it is revealed in the first issue. I don't think it's a spoiler at this point, but the assassination was set up by the
Right.
Wayne Enterprises,
Yep.
by the cabal on the board of Wayne Enterprises, to get rid of Thomas Wayne. And
It's
so it wouldn't have
almost
made sense for
like
them to leave.
you think capitalists are murderers. I'm sensing a theme in Mark Russell books here.
Well, if you are a capitalist and a murderer, you're not going to leave alive the heir to the capital fortune you're trying to. And so it was like, well, if I were to have him present at that murder, then the rest of the book you're just going to be asking, why didn't they just murder this fool
Right.
Yep.
at the beginning? It's sort of like, Star Wars, when they could have like blew up the escape pod with C-3PO and R2-D2.
Right.
I didn't want people
Or for
asking
that
that
matter,
question for the rest of the book.
Obi-Wan leaving Anakin burning rather than just
Yeah.
finishing him off.
Yeah. So in that, it was a school night, and it just didn't make any sense for him to be there.
It was a school night. I
I
like
love
it.
love it.
Yeah. Well, I just love your flavor that you put on your books. Your tongue in cheek, your politics. I think it all works. And
Well, thank you.
yeah, I can't wait to
So,
read
so,
issue 2.
so you told me that you couldn't confirm or deny a question that I have, but I'm going to tell a story that I don't think I've told on the air anyway, just because it was a kind of cool moment for me, and it involved your Batman, but in Superman Space Age, but I noticed the design is very similar in Dark Age now. I got a severe concussion little more than a year ago now.
Yep.
On the day that I think Superman Space Age number 2 or 3, which was the one where Batman appeared first? Was it in 2 or was it in 3?
I think he appears at the end of 1. But I think he's like kind of prominent. I think he's in 1, but I think he's more prominent in 2.
Okay. I guess the better question is which one has the first Bruce Wayne? And I think that's 2.
That's 1.
Oh, he was.
No,
Was
one,
he as
one,
both Bruce Wayne and
yeah. Yeah, because I think Bruce Wayne was in the defense contract bid against Lex Luthor in book 1.
okay, and this is where we now go to. I had a concussion, so like
Yeah,
remembering
you're
this stuff.
excused. It's
Right.
an excused absence.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I was lying on a stretcher in the emergency room, waiting to be waiting. No, it was actually the third. So I must not have noticed it in the first 2. So maybe it took the concussion for me to think about it. I do remember the date of the concussion, and the third one came out on the date of the concussion. So I'm lying on a stretcher in the emergency room, and I get to the Bruce Wayne, and I'm like, that looks like Paul Pope. And then I like go back a couple of pages, and I'm like, that really looks like Paul Pope's Batman 100, only younger. Then I show it to my wife, and she's like, that looks like Paul Pope. And I know that she doesn't know Paul Pope's art at all. So I'm like, you do mean Paul? Yeah, she's like, I don't know what Paul Pope's art looks like, but I saw him when you were talking to him the other night. That looks like Paul Pope. So I happen to have Paul Pope's phone number. So I like took a screenshot and I sent it to Paul. I'm like, Paul, were you the inspiration for Mike Allred's Batman? And he initially took it as like, was his art the inspiration?
Oh, not him.
And he's like, so he's like, I doubt it, but he and I came up at the same time, so we got like the same influences, that sort of thing. Mike's a great guy, and I'm like, no, I don't mean your art. My wife's never seen your art, and she kind of agrees that Bruce Wayne in particularly looks like you. And like 10 minutes later, he's like, yeah, I see it. So
That's interesting.
if you're ever talking to Mike and you feel
I will
like
definitely bring it
asking
up
him,
next time I talk to him.
you
See
know,
if
I mean,
he-
you can also tell him that we'd love to talk to him,
Yeah.
but that was like the best moment in a really bad day was that, you
Well,
know,
I'm glad to hear that.
I felt, you know, I had just enough courage from the concussion to go, I'm going to send a completely unsolicited text message to Paul Pope. And then he responded. Then I had my CT scan and it said that nothing was broken, but
That's a
then
good start.
then I had, you know, 3 months in mostly darkness and
Oh,
6
wow.
months of not doing much at all. And
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah,
That sounds
it sucked.
awful. That's very rough.
well, and
Yeah.
you know what I said on the air a lot, so it's not new. Is you know, I'm a reader. I read a ton,
Yeah.
like 200 pages of comics and 50
I can
pages of something
imagine.
else every day, and that's when I'm working. So here I am off of work for 6 months, and I probably read a quarter of what I would have normally read in that time because I just couldn't focus.
Yeah.
It sucked.
Oh,
I don't advise it at all. Concussions are bad things. If your friends say, "Hey, you want to try a concussion?" say, "No. I heard on 22 panels
Yeah.
that concussions are bad." But I mean, I got to enjoy your comic in the
Sage advice.
in the emergency room. It got me through. So thank you, Mark, too.
Well, I'm glad it was there with you in the darkness.
I mean, I actually wound up because I was in the emergency room for way too long and I was reading digital comics. And I have them all digitally. I wound up not only reading it, but then going back and re-downloading the first two. I read the whole thing lying on my.
You never stop
I
as
don't.
far as your
I don't know. I hate not reading. So I literally was telling my therapist earlier today that like, if I don't have something entertaining me or like taking my attention, like this conversation is taking my attention, so I'm not reading anything.
Yeah.
But like, if you and Tyler went off on a riff that I didn't care about, I'd start reading something on the screen over here because I can't not. I don't know how not.
That's funny.
That's
Yeah.
how I am.
Yeah, I do a lot of like sort of ambient reading like that too, or if I'm just like in my car waiting for somebody or something, it's
Right.
like I'll just dial up a book on my phone and just start reading it.
Right.
And I found that like my phone has actually made me a much more a much more pervasive reader of prose than I
Mm-hmm.
was before, just
Mm-hmm.
because it's like right there. And it's so much
Mm-hmm.
more. I don't think I would want to read a comic on my phone, but
I sometimes
like
do,
a
but
prose
only
book.
panel by panel.
Yeah, I
Like
don't do it.
if I want to go panel by
Yeah, the
panel, I'll do
guided
it
view
on
is
my
not
phone.
bad, but
Right.
Yeah, I don't
But
do it.
yeah,
I just do
no,
it on my
I
iPad.
that's the single biggest reason that I am a digital reader is that I like to read everywhere. So now rather than reading the
I
back of
just
cereal boxes
yeah,
or the receipt that is in my glove
right.
compartment or whatnot, I can
I'd say
like,
most of the reading I do now is in just these little sort of micro gaps in
yeah,
life.
I'm like stuck in line somewhere and it's like, okay, let's read
Yeah,
some Richard Stark, you know?
yeah.
Um,
I'm in bed and I've already turned the lights out. It's like, but I'm not
right,
sleepy yet. I'll read for like
right.
20 minutes.
hmm hmm
So I
Well, particularly because the pocket-sized paperback has gone away.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can literally carry a book around your pocket anymore.
have you ever
Oh,
got
sorry, I cut you off, Tyler.
have you ever got caught reading somewhere, reading something that was a little graphic that you probably shouldn't have someone reading over your shoulder? I was at my daughter's dance class, and I was reading Astro City, and it happened to be a particularly graphic issue of Astro City, and the other dance parents are just kind of like glancing down at my iPad as I'm just
Yeah.
casually just swiping left, you know.
See, I don't think I have, but there have been times that I finish reading a book and I go, "Oh my God, did I just read an issue of heavy metal at school?"
Yeah. That's like what I'm talking about. Like it's an inappropriate spot to be reading.
Yeah. Not safe for dance class.
Yeah, exactly. Ted, we lost you. I'm gonna pause this here till Ted comes back. All right, we're back. We had to pause there for a minute while Tad reset his router. I hope everything's
Yeah,
better.
and I have no idea what I was talking about. So, we'll just pick up like nothing happened.
Yeah, Mark and I were just talking about the Flintstones and how I adored that book.
Ah,
I don't
the
think I got.
Flintstones is where I met Mark Russell metaphysically
Yeah,
and made me so happy to get to meet Mark Russell via the interwebs.
yeah.
And one day I'll meet Mark Russell in person and the
Circle
whole,
will be complete.
circle will be completed.
In that book,
I think
the most poignant moment is honestly when the vacuum cleaner and the bowling ball becoming friends, and then tragedy. I never thought I would get choked up over Flintstones, you know.
well, thank you. Yeah, I take that as as a rich compliment
It
because
is.
what the point of that was how we're all sort of reduced to appliances by people seeing us as our economic functions. And what I wanted
Right.
to do is to take two things that have been so reduced to their status as economic functions that their names literally are bowling ball and vacuum cleaner, and and then make you see them as people, make you see them as human beings,
Yes.
or at least sentient animals.
Exactly. And that's
Right.
exactly what it did. Hit me right in my feelers.
Mark has I mean that's like your superpower is you manage to make us think, feel, and laugh sometimes separately and sometimes simultaneously. Um, which is kind of an odd feeling when you're like
Well,
laughing
I
and
can only do that
crying at the
because
same time.
you're living imaginative beings.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think those are the people I write for, the people that are open to like emotional experiences, people that are I think for me a good book, a good story works ultimately on three levels. There's like sort of just the base level of like, oh, this is a good story, it's exciting things are happening. And then there's more like sort of the emotional level where it's like, oh, I really care about these characters. I hope nothing too bad happens to them. And then there's the intellectual level, which is like, oh, this has a lot to say, and oh, this is funny. Or it's like, oh, that made me think. And I think the stories I love, the things the books, the novels I'll reread, like have some element of all three of those, exist on all three of those planes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, since you just said the novels you reread, you want to tell us a couple of novels that you like to reread because they exist
Yeah,
on those
well,
planes?
I feel like two of the novels that I've probably read several times because they were just sort of door openers for me. They just sort of like, wow, this just really changed the way I see not only fiction but the world. Were Ray Bradbury's Martian Chronicles,
Oh,
which I read when I was like 12, and I was just sort of
yeah.
blown away by it because it's like every chapter is like its own little short story, and
S-
they're like some of them were
So I
only,
have to ask you a question. Have you read any later editions? Because they did something really cool.
what do they do?
They changed the dates.
No, that's great. I would love to see it now.
So, like, if you read a first edition, it's all like 1999.
Yep.
But
Uh-huh.
if you read like the edition from the
That's the one I
80s,
read.
it's
Yeah.
like 2020 something. And if you read like the
Yeah.
Kindle edition now, I think it's like 2050.
Which makes sense.
They
Uh,
changed the dates.
but yeah, because yeah, the edition I read was like this is. I mean, granted to me then it was still in the future, but not significantly in the
Right.
future.
Right.
Uh, in the sense, there's no way this is actually going to be happening by
Right.
1999.
Right. Yeah, no, I didn't actually notice that until I was reading a pocket edition that I picked up at like half price books. And I'm like, wait a minute, 1999. I thought this was and I went back and I looked at my Kindle and no, see, it's this. And then I looked into it and it's like, oh, I think they've now used three sets of dates
In their different
to
editions. Yeah.
have it to shift it so that it's always appropriately in the future.
It's always
Yeah,
relevant.
when we're releasing a new reformatted version of Prez in that sort of YA format. And
Right.
one of the changes, one of the things that's different, is that we kind of did the same thing. We kicked out the dates a little farther
Good.
because when I wrote Prez in 2015, 2038 seemed like kind of a long ways away. But
Not so
now
much
it's
anymore.
like it's less than 15 years.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we added a
Also
decade.
not
We
an
put 10
election
more
year.
years on it.
Not an election year. No.
Yeah, 2038 is not an election year.
Yeah, I think it was, you're right. I think it was the 2000, if I remember. Oh, no, it was 2036 because it was supposed to be
Okay.
20 years after
Okay.
2016. So
Okay.
we changed it, I think, to two, so we changed it to 2048.
Though you wouldn't be the first one to use that as a way to make it a separate universe. Uh,
Yeah.
if you're paying attention closely, the West Wing works on a uh, non-Olympic or a Winter Olympic year schedule rather than a Summer Olympic year schedule with it's
Mm.
a non-leap year even year election cycle.
That would have
Uh,
been a great sort of last episode of The West Wing where they pull back and you realize this is not planet Earth.
well, I mean, what they because they wanted to be able to use like history. So all the presidents up through I think Johnson or Nixon were treated as part of the universe. It was only the ones since then that were
Right.
fictional because they wanted to be able to have past presidents too, but they didn't want to have somebody play Ronald Reagan. They didn't want to
Right.
So that was part of the interior conceit was that, and I forget exactly how far, up to a certain point in history, it was U.S. history. And then in general, it was U.S. history, but was with different presidents.
They could have had an episode that explained that at some point in like 1972 or whatever, the
Right.
Earth entered a keyhole that sent it into a completely different quantum reality. It's two different Earths.
That would be awesome.
Yep.
I would watch that. I mean, if Aaron Sorkin wrote it, I would watch, the history of grass growing.
Yeah.
But
They could have Martin Sheen, like a scientist, come to Martin Sheen and say they made this incredible discovery that's
right.
going to change everything you thought you knew. And he's like, not only did I discover that the Earth had gone through this keyhole and we're participating in a different quantum reality than the Earth that went into the keyhole, but we could check in on what's going on that Earth right now. And then they just
And
show
I
clips
think
from
we'd
like
cry
CNN or
because it
whatever.
was like it would almost certainly be a nicer Earth.
Yeah, no, they
Most of
could be going back
most
to
of the
Martin Sheen.
politicians in the West Wing are like sane.
Yeah,
They'll
no,
listen to a
they could,
reasoned argument.
and that could be like their takeaway. It's like, oh my God, I'm so glad we're not on another planet. I'm so glad we dodged that bullet. I don't know what happened to those people.
It's like an episode of Mystery Science 3000 where we're
have
watching.
Josh Lyman looking through the wormhole at Marjorie Taylor Greene and going, I thought our Congress was bad.
Yeah, it's like those people are clearly living in some sort of matrix situation. Yeah, some kid is playing Sims and not doing a very good job.
Some days I wonder.
That is
Yeah,
actually the best argument I've ever heard for us being in a simulation. Whoever's at the controls right now is going, I wonder
yeah.
how far we can push this button before the game
Well, I think
breaks.
you could go back even further than that. I think kind of proof that we're sort of maybe living in an alternate universe is the fact that like Christianity of all things became the official religion of the Roman Empire. It's
Right.
like what series of events, what series of like, rolling the heart, how many times do you have to roll the heart eight in a roll
Right.
in a row to get that series of events to happen where it's
Right.
like the emperor just suddenly and out of nowhere converts to Christianity and then converts the entire empire to this bizarre cult that, most people had never even heard of.
I've
Well,
always wondered that myself.
I mean, a couple of them managed to defeat the Lions, and that meant that they were strong. You know, That's the best I can come up with.
That's funny. Do you want to
But
hear?
yeah.
You want to hear a funny story, Mark? When I was preparing for talking to you tonight, when I heard that the comic book Uncle Scrooge and the Infinity Dime was coming out, I had just assumed you were writing it, and so
I had too.
I
I thought for sure, oh, this would be like something I would do eventually. And like, nope, Jason Aaron got it.
I know. And then when so in the back of my mind, I was thinking you were the Scrooge McDuck guy. So I was just looking through your stuff, and I'm like, that's not him at all. I'm like, so
No,
I almost asked
I'm
you
jealous.
some-
I'm seriously jealous.
yeah,
I don't blame you. Scrooge McDuck is one of the greatest comic characters ever. Carl Barks is the underrated genius
Yes.
of
And I feel
classic
in a
comics.
way sort of my rightful intellectual property. I feel like I should have been offered this.
yeah.
But no, I'm sure I'm and that and I'm even more pissed off because I'm sure Jason Aaron will do a terrific job and no one's going to want to follow him.
Except you. You'll get the first series.
Well, maybe. I'm the one guy dumb enough to try it.
I mean, though I want to know, and like, be careful because you don't want to give away your pitch to Marvel. But I am now curious, how would you handle the ultimate capitalist of Scrooge McDuck without turning him into an evil bastard, or would you turn him into an evil bastard? In which case, I don't know if we can be friends anymore.
No, I think that the way to handle Scrooge McDuck would be like it's not him that's evil. He's just acting the way any of us would be if we had Scrooge McDuck's wealth. And but he's just sort of self-absorbed and oblivious to the pain and suffering around the world because he's got enough money, he doesn't really have to care. It's like he's just doing all this stuff because it's just
he
normal.
is the self. I mean, the mythology though is that he is the self-made billionaire. He didn't come from money.
But I think that, it's sort of like being a billionaire is sort of like becoming Roman emperor.
Right.
It's like, yeah, I mean, most like Caligula and a lot of these guys are just normal guys. I mean, or at least they were, well-adjusted aristocratic children until they became the Roman emperor, and then they went nuts. That much power just whacked out their brain. They each and every one of them at some point became Kanye West. And I feel like this is what would happen to Scrooge
thoughts
McDuck.
about Batman Dark Age and because we're already seeing a brattier Bruce Wayne than we've seen before.
Well, in a way, I think one of the thing that allows him to sort of become Batman or to become like sort of the champion of Gotham is that he's sort of exiled from the castle very early on in his life. Right. He's shunned from the perch of privilege he was expecting to have, and is having to live as somebody who's been sort of hunted and cast out the way most Gothamites feel. He's having to live like other Gothamites. And he goes to Vietnam, where he is waking up every morning wondering if this is the last day of his life. And I feel like that in a lot of ways is what allowed him to become Batman instead of the Bruce Wayne
issue.
Yep, that's this week's issue. I guess I should say spoiler alert.
Spoiler.
It's not much. It's not much of a spoiler. It happens pretty early on in the issue, and some of the covers sort of attest to this fact.
Out on Tuesday, for another couple of months before DC goes back to the way comics should be and comes out on Wednesday. Not that
so if you want to buy it on Wednesday,
Wednesday has been like a forever thing.
Yeah. If you get it on Wednesday, I won't hold it against you. It's fine. Yeah. I usually when I go to my local comic shop to buy, I usually don't make it out there till later in the week, Thursday or Friday. I very rarely make it on a Wednesday or Tuesday.
I sometimes do too, but as Tyler knows, the books that I love the most, I get digitally, even if I'm getting them physically.
Yeah.
So there's a decent chance that I'll read Batman Dark Age #2 at 11 o'clock on Monday night.
So
because Kindle gives it to me at midnight Eastern.
Yep. Well, for me, I bought #1 over on Amazon, and now that #2's coming out, I want to own them physically. So now I got to go track down #1.
I bought it both ways for #1.
You did,
and we'll be buying it both ways for #2. I have it both ways for Mark. I've bought Superman Space Age in all available editions so far. I have it digitally.
He seriously has been talking about it since it came out.
I have the hardcover.
That's what we call milking it. I think
there's at least one issue where I wound up with 2 covers, which I hate it when I feel the need to get multiple covers. But it happens sometimes. For that matter, as Tyler brought up Scrooge McDuck, there are way too many really awesome Scrooge McDuck covers.
Oh, there are some good ones.
That's how they get you.
We haven't even seen the Scotty Young or the Frank Miller ones
I know, but I want the Peach Momoko
Scotty Young and Frank Miller doing Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah. No, I'll get the Alex Ross and the Peach Momoko.
Yeah.
But
I miss the days where they only put out one cover on things, and there was never.
What do you, Mark? What do you like to buy when you go to the comic book store? What are you reading lately?
Yeah.
I usually get trades.
Okay.
I am a trade waiter, but sometimes this is why I think maybe the entire comics industry will pivot towards buyers like me. But maybe that's just my hubris. Maybe that's just my self-importance. But if there's an issue, if there's a series I'm not terribly sure about or I'm intrigued by, but I'm not sure if I'm going to get the book, I'll buy the first issue.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and I'll read it. So I get a lot of issue number ones just to take a flyer on something, and then other than that, I usually wait for the trade.
I
Uh,
forget what there's a comic company. We noticed it a couple months ago that there was a company that did an issue one like the first week of the month and
And
then
then
did
they
the
did the
trade at the
trade.
end of the month
Yep.
yeah, no,
and
this
didn't
is
do
what
any
I
of the
think.
other issues.
This is what I think maybe the future is that,
I think that's
that's
a
what will
brilliant.
happen.
I
Because
mean,
yeah,
I don't think floppies will completely go away, but I think if they're smart,
yeah. I mean, I think the things like Detective Comics or like Amazing Spider-Man will still do every issue in floppy,
Sure.
but most series, I would not be surprised if it's like you get issue number one, especially creator-owned stuff. You get issue number one, so you can see if you like it, and it's also a collectible, and then you have to hold for the issues if you liked it. Are you
Mhm.
guys? Did you guys get all that?
Yeah.
It looked like
Yes,
you were
I think
frozen
I
for.
think we
Okay,
did.
good.
Yeah.
There was a minor hiccup, but I don't know if it
But
was
yeah,
on
I
my
think
side only or
because
Tyler's side too.
that would cut down on the print costs and also would, absolve people from like having to buy all these individual floppy issues and then also pay for the book.
Right.
I think it would solve a lot of problems. I don't know if that's the way the industry will go, but if it did, I wouldn't mind.
I would be behind that. I know some comic shops that would be behind that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
I,
because they make their money off the issue number ones, right? They
mm,
make their money off of like the collectors buying all the variant
yeah,
covers.
they make well. I mean, most of my favorite comic shops have already pivoted as hard as they can into trades. Um,
Yeah.
so
So it's like you
really,
get the issue ones and you get the trades. You're not carrying like issue number five
even
of
even
some
with
little
issue
known.
one, they have the trouble of how many do we really want to order,
Yeah.
and everything after issue one, it's that much harder to know how many do we want to
Yeah.
order because what they don't
Right. So if you just
want
cut that,
is
yeah.
any left at the end of the month.
So if you
Yeah,
just narrowed that decision, that uncertainty to an issue one, which are the one you're going to sell the most of, and then, go right to the trade, I think you take a lot of waste out of the industry and a lot of the uncertainty out of the buying for the direct market.
I actually wonder if it would be this is something to help me remember, Tyler, the next time we happen to talk to any comic shop owners.
sure.
I wonder if it would be a like viable, particularly because almost always later issues don't sell out.
Right.
So I
Hmm.
wonder if it would actually be a viable store strategy to only buy issue ones unless they're pre-ordered.
Hmm. I suppose
You
they'd
know,
want a few on hand.
Yeah. I would think that if you didn't knew you weren't going to have to worry about ordering issue twos, threes, fours, or whatever,
Yeah.
you might take a flyer on more issue ones. You might
right?
say double the number you had on your pull lists,
Yeah.
um, just to like take care of the people who are coming in just to see if they wanted to buy the trade when it came out. And even then, if took a loss or something, like, oh, we still had 10 number ones on the shelves we weren't able to sell, it it still would you know
It's
be
less
like
likely
you've
to be a
got these.
comic that you can never sell.
Yeah. And you might even give them away just in the hopes that you'll
That's
make
what I was
the
thinking.
sale back
People
up when
who
the
buy
people
the
buy the
trade
trade.
on the first week
I would
get
say,
a issue one with it.
yeah, if I were starting my own comic book shop, this is what I would do. I would order, a lot of issue number ones of all the creator owned style, like all your
Right.
the pull lists, probably plus just as many just to have on hand. And then any ones I couldn't sell after like a month or something, I would just knock down to $1. Just
I mean
it's like it's
that
$1
that's
for
I mean my one of my favorite comic shops is Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, and um they order more than issue one, but that's pretty close to what they do with their back issues. If it's still on the shelf 6 months later, it gets knocked down to $2 and put in there. They don't do any back issues except the ones
Yeah.
that they took off of their shelf. They mark them down to $2 because they sell them as well at $2 as they sell them at $1, which is still not as much as they'd like, but enough. So why take an
And,
actual loss on an issue if it doesn't?
That's the
juice their
opposite of
sales?
my.
you know,
That's the opposite of my
you know,
shop.
Yeah. Well, your shop,
and it might be a loss
real
leader too,
estate's
because if that person likes the number one, they might go buy the trade.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I like
you know,
it, Mark.
if you wanted like issues 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever, I would get them for you if you had them on your pull list.
Exactly.
But I'm not going to get a
Exactly.
bunch just to have moldering
Yeah.
on the shelves.
No, I like this idea. And for that matter, then you can leave the issue ones up on the shelf longer because you've got more space.
Right. I go to the comic book shops and I'll see like, stacks of unsold comics. It's like, and
Right.
they're issues 1 through 7 or 8.
Well, actually,
like,
half the time it's 2 through 7 or 8.
yeah, right. Yeah. So no one's going to start at 2.
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
And there's
guys,
nothing worse than wanting to pick up a run and
I was.
be missing any issue, but much less the one.
Yeah.
So,
Tad, I'm gonna. Do you want to? If you want to keep chatting, do you want to hit record? I got to jump off to put my daughter.
you gotta go put Raina to bed, and we need to
Yep.
talk traveling to Mars. So
Yep.
yes, I'm gonna hit record on my side.
Yep.
Recording in progress.
There we go. If you feel like coming back after Raina's in bed, go for it, Tyler, or text me or whatnot.
Sounds good.
But okay.
All right. See you guys.
Tyler's
Tyler.
got father duties.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm a grandfather, so my kids don't live here.
That's nice. That makes things convenient.
It does. Grandparenting is fun. Parenting,
Yeah, it seems like
It's
the frosting
fulfilling.
of the cake.
yeah, parenting is fulfilling, but grandparenting is fun. And I say fulfilling
I think I'd take fun.
because most of the other things you can say about parenting don't sound very nice, and I do love my children. So Mark,
Fulfilling is basically what we tell ourselves for being glad having done it.
right,
As
right.
opposed to being glad doing it.
It was a fulfilling experience to work at McDonald's for 6 months while I
Yeah.
paid for college.
Those 1,000 crunches were fulfilling,
Right. Let's talk traveling to Mars, which also, go figure, has like billionaires being billionaires. I love the basic premise of this comic, which is, oh, we've gotten word that there's oil on Mars, and somehow the decision has been made that whoever gets to Mars first gets to claim all the oil. So the Easy Beef Company finds a dying man and puts him in a rocket with no intention of ever having him come home. I don't know what's better, that initial premise or in the middle when, the other companies send the death row inmates who have been freed under what was it? The
medical
Scientific
experiment.
Research- Medical
the
Experiment Act of 2032.
Which means you can get off death row if you agree to allow yourself to be used in like medical experiments with small chance of success. Which, I mean, all of what you just said makes it sound like it's a screwball comedy, like it's just wacky.
And it has its moments, but it's also way more
it
poignant.
is.
than
It's
you normally
absurd.
do. Right.
It's absurd. It's just not wacky. It's played very seriously. But I feel like that's sort of the world we live
It
in.
has wacky moments.
Most of what we're going through is completely
The
100%
robots
absurd.
figuring out how to laugh
Yeah.
was a little wacky.
Yeah, it was a little wacky. I concede that.
It has its wacky moments. And that's part of what I love about it is particularly because you write it from like as the diary. With occasional flashback scenes. So it's mostly a monologue of a dying man at the end of a unremarkable life, only all lives have some remarkability. Um,
Yeah, and I think that's a part of the theme. It's not like ordinary lives are themselves like a complete galaxy.
right.
They're a complete universe of experiences. Worth the worth more than pretty much anything else in the universe,
And
except other lives.
talking to the world's worst therapist, but I chalk that up to, as it turns out, Earth is dying while he's on his way to, because I'm sitting there going, this is the guy that's supposed to make certain he doesn't kill himself, and he's talking about immortality being a myth.
Yeah.
And
And
I'm
I
like,
think part of it is that like he becomes more of his friend, where it's
right,
like the doctor patient relationship sort of dissolve
definitely.
as soon as he's like out of reach and in space, and they're just kind of talking as buddies.
Yeah. But I almost feel like and why can't I remember your character's name? What's the what's our guitar playing
Roy, the
Martian's
main
name?
character.
Roy. Right.
Yeah, it's Roy.
Yeah, I
Roy,
definitely feel
Roy
like
Livingston. Yeah.
it it reaches a point where it's like Roy is trying to make the psychologist feel better. And that's just weird. Um,
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways it's as much therapy for the doctor because
right.
he's stuck on a planet that's dying.
Yeah,
So one guy is a man who's dying without a planet. The other guy's a man on a planet with a planet that's dying. So it's
right.
like they're trying to make each other sort of feel better about the impending mortality of both of them.
Well, and I mean, and this is one of the issues with single issue comics. It didn't sink into me when I was reading month to month that the planet was dying like more than we're already dying. It was this read that I'm like, oh wait, fuel shortages, martial law in California, like
Yeah,
like
it's sort of the natural end of the fossil fuel age.
right, but again, when I was reading it single issues, when it's only a panel here and a panel there, it's somehow like I was so focused on Roy that I missed that arguably he really is the luckiest man in the world because at least he's not in the chaos of Earth. Um, what's the
When he's
Steve
seen as this
Buscemi?
incredible hero.
Right. But what's the Steve Buscemi line in Armageddon? I've got front row seats to the end of the world.
Yeah. And like, but they people are thinking that once he goes there and claims this, this fuel, that everything will be fine again. Everything will go back to normal.
Well,
Which of
billionaires are
course is
thinking that. I,
illusory.
I mean, I would be
Well, people are
willing to
thinking,
bet that most of the non-billionaires are not.
well, they're thinking, oh, good, well, we'll be able to fill up, we'll at the pump again, or we'll be able to heat our homes again. But again, it's all kind of illusory because yeah, until you exhaust that fuel source, it's just
Well,
sort of
and
like
him
we won't
getting
have to
there
go
to
through this
claim it
again.
doesn't bring it back.
No, it's not really that he's a hero. It's that like this is the first step in the process of getting it to Earth, and he becomes the focal point.
Well,
But he's not doing anything to create it.
and with such a screwed up corporate structure that it's not like anybody goes, oh, you're going to be claiming this, let's pour money into working with you to actually build container ships to go get this and whatnot. No, let's pour money into making even worse ships that we can send death row inmates off to try to crash his ship. We're not even trying to beat him there, we're just trying to prevent him from getting. I'm like,
Yeah,
it's
it's sort of the against the backdrop of the Earth ending due to resource depletion is the fact that the corporations don't even really care that the Earth is ending. They don't really care about ending the resource depletion. They just want to refill their own resources. So
right.
if they could destroy the resource to preserve their monopoly, or to destroy someone else's resources at the in order to preserve their own, that's a win for them, even though that
Well,
is
and
accelerating
honestly,
the rate at which the Earth runs out.
I think this highlights one of the biggest issues with uh, American capitalism, where capital is more important than work. Capital is more important than making things.
Yeah.
And we absolutely believe that inherited wealth is earned wealth. Um, the result is a lot of the decision makers aren't that smart. And they certainly aren't that good
Yeah. Well,
at
we're
looking
probably
past the end of their nose.
right. We're probably at a point in human history where lying has never been so lucrative,
Oh yeah.
where because so much of the value, in fact, the overwhelming majority of the value of our markets is not based upon commodities or products or things that actually have a tangible value, but upon the belief that this company will at some point create something that could result in some tangible value.
Right.
So because it's all speculative, you really are incentivized to lie or to
Right.
mislead people into thinking this will change everything someday. That's how you get something like people to invest billions of dollars in something like Hyperloop
Right.
or like the Elizabeth Smart, her company, I forget what that was called.
Theranos.
Because yeah, Theranos, because there's much more money to be made in convincing people this is a smart investment than there is in actually making something that people can actually use to improve their
Well,
lives.
where it can become ridiculously difficult is like a huge swath of the tech industry right now is like one company did something and is doing something and started to make money. So a dozen other companies pop up to do that and try to
Mhm.
do that, and they hire smart people that they don't know what they're doing, so they don't know if they're good or not good at their job,
Yeah,
but they can use that to juice their stock. And when they don't give them the resources or whatever they need to produce anything that will juice their stock naturally in the whatever course they need to prove to their stockholders that, then okay, we got to streamline, so let's fire all those smart people that we never gave it, and they never actually really tried to make anything.
yeah.
It
Well,
was
this is what,
all, except that,
kind of
I
like
mean,
has happened.
this is how like really smart people still wind up unable to pay their school debts.
Well, there's a phrase that was coined by Alan Greenspan called rational irrationality, which sounds like an oxymoron, sounds like an absurdity. But what he's talking about is that, like, you can have investors acting in their own rational self-interest that leads to some incredibly irrational outcomes.
Mhm.
It's like buying stock that you know is worthless because you think you can sell it to somebody else for more down the lane.
Oh,
And this is
people
essentially
who
the
buy
logic of every stock bubble.
people who bought uh DJT stock
Oh
on
yeah.
in the first hour and sold in the second hour did really well for themselves. Anybody buying
Yeah. Or,
today like is really dumb.
it's like this is what the investors in Tesla are finding out, right? That
Right.
that like your company is evaluated higher than like General Motors or Toyota, even though you have less than 5% of the sales share of automobiles. It's like that's going to come crashing down at some point.
Mhm.
That's a stock that is only being floated because people believe it will be worth something someday, because a lot of people are lying to a lot of people to convince them that that's true, and they're only doing it to keep the stock price up. They have no intention on actually delivering on any of these promises of like robo taxis or self-driving cars. But as long as they can get you to believe that this is just around the corner, they'll keep the stock valuation high, even though they aren't really selling that many cars compared to other companies.
Well, and don't forget that then their CEO will go absolutely insane and make everything he touches toxic. So
Well, I think
only a
that
certain class of billionaires will even still believe the lies.
this I think it might be, I don't know this for a fact, but I think that might have been what went into the decision to buy Twitter, was that like, well, if nothing else, I can turn this into I could control the flow of information
Oh,
and use it to like help all my sort of uh pump and dump schemes in the future for my other companies.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. I don't think it's worked out well for him.
No, I don't think he's made very many good decisions. I think he's a great example of how much the game is rigged in favor of the capital class and how easy it is to fail upward once you've achieved a certain level of success. There's a there's a thing called negative buoyancy, where if you are underwater so far, your buoyancy won't necessarily lift you to the top of the water. It just sort of will lift you in whatever direction you decide to go. And I think
Okay.
for the capital class, they have a sort of negative buoyancy where it's like they're too big to fail. So the gravity or their buoyancy is not going to drag them down. They're not gravity's not going to pull them down. They will just go in whatever direction they choose to sort of go.
Well, and as you say, too big to fail. You remind me of your Wrong Earth story, and living in Chicago and watching the White Sox beg for a stadium that they don't need and won't get,
Yeah.
and meanwhile, and I saw a great story. Toronto is just paying for their own renovations, and the reason they decided to do renovations versus building a new stadium is they did the math and they're like, nah, it'll work out better for us to do the renovations than new stadium. And
Yeah.
they never even tried to get public funding because they knew that there was no chance that Canada would give it to them. And they also knew that as the only Canadian team, there was no chance that moving to another market was actually going to be worthwhile for them.
If you have a large structure, renovations are almost always the better decision. Uh, unless you are like at a sea change in technology where you just need to tear something down to build it so you can have something like indoor plumbing or electricity, you're almost always better renovating
Well, I mean,
because
like
it's
their
cheaper
original
and you
stadium,
get
which was
more.
the first retractable roof, was a worthwhile thing. You weren't going to be
Yeah.
able to turn the old, I forget what the original stadium in Toronto, the god awful dome that they had there was called, but you weren't going to be able to turn that into a retractable roof stadium. Toronto is a nice enough city enough of the year that being able to have actual grass on the field was a big deal.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, no, I think it's funny. There's actually only also one stadium that's actually been a benefit to its community, and that's the one in
Really?
San Francisco. And you know why it's been a benefit to its community?
No.
Because the Giants paid for it. So
Yeah,
there
that
wasn't
makes sense.
already a sunk cost that had to be made up.
Right.
It hasn't actually been a massive benefit to its community, but when you don't have the $1 billion sunk cost, that was the
Stadiums are
last.
off, especially like Olympic stadiums. You almost always boondoggle.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it was
like stadiums for profitable professional sports usually are kind of a boondoggle for the city. They
right.
are
Not
beneficial for
usually,
everybody except for the
not usually,
taxpayers.
always, always. Particularly the new brand where the team owners buy all of the land around the stadium. So not only are they getting this $1 billion government handout of a new stadium, but who it benefits is them because they own the hotel across the street and they own the restaurant across the street and they own the condos across the street. St. Louis is already talking about they need to possibly need a new stadium because their stadium village isn't doing as well as they hoped it would. It's like,
Yeah,
the
when a
hell?
city's talking about, or I guess it's not usually a city, it's usually the team owners
No, it's
are
always the
talking
team
about
owners.
needing a new stadium. What they really mean is like a new deal.
Right.
They mean is like they need someone else to buy them a new stadium
Right.
so that
Right.
they can profit
Right.
off the
I love. Did you see what Kansas
Mhm.
City did? They voted down the
No.
stadium referendum.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
heard about
yeah,
that.
yeah. They're like, but we won the Super Bowl. And they're like, that's nice. You've got a
Yeah,
nice
you
stadium. You
right.
can
You won the Super Bowl in
if
this
you wanna
stadium.
keep winning the Super Bowl for us, you've got a stadium. Otherwise, you want to move across the river into Kansas, you go do that.
I mean, I love
uh,
large seat venues and whatnot, but I just hate, again, it's like AI. I have nothing really against the technology of AI itself. I just hate the ownership model because it becomes
oh yeah,
just the theft engine.
yeah,
And I think stadiums are the same way. It's not so much like, I mean, I have nothing against stadiums. I love large arenas. I go to large arenas to watch sports and concerts all the time myself. It's just the ownership model has just made it such just this engine of theft. I hate the
yeah.
fact that I know every time I'm going there, I'm adding to the depth by which somebody has been suckered into paying for this.
I mean, honestly, I don't even completely oppose public funding for stadiums, but it should be structured in a way
Yeah.
where they know it's going to benefit them. Sure, we'll build your stadium. This is the rent. We get the concessions. We get
Yeah.
the stadium advertisements.
No, if I think if you have the budget surplus to do it, if I was in charge of a city, I'd just say, well, we're just going to do the whole thing ourselves. We're going to
Right,
pay for the renovations ourselves. We're not going to sell naming rights. We're not going to sell the concession rights or we're
right,
just going to handle it all ourselves. And this is going to become like basically our a jobs program for
right.
youth who want jobs in the city.
Yeah.
This is going to become like a revitalization program,
Mm-hmm,
revitalize the areas around the city. This
mm-hmm,
is also going to become like this is how we're going to guarantee that, the team stays here.
right.
And and we're not going to leave it in the hands of like billionaires and investors who don't necessarily care about the city.
I mean, this is what I love. The A's ownership is foobarred things so much that they're going to be playing in Sacramento in a minor league stadium for at least the next
Yeah,
3 years.
I know.
In
It's
part
like Field of
because
Dreams.
Yeah, in part because even when they went back to Oakland and said, "Can we sign a short-term lease?" Oakland said, "Sure," at like 80 million a year, actual market rate. And they're like, "Well, we were paying 5 million a year before." And Oakland is like, "Yeah, we were cutting you a massive deal before."
Yeah, now you're going to move to Las Vegas. That's what I mean. It's like if
Right.
you're not providing value to the community, why should the
And
community provide value to you?
right. And then what I really loved is, because the city knows how the game is played, they couldn't not make a counteroffer. So they went, okay, 75 million a year, but we keep concessions. And then apparently literally went out for drinks.
That's the way you do it.
And even in making the announcement in Sacramento, the A's owner talked about it's going to be great that we're going to have fantastic ball players like Aaron Judge playing in Sacramento. And it's like, wait a minute, you're not even going to highlight your own team. You're going to talk about the guys coming in to play against your team in a 12,000 capacity stadium, which is fine because you're not going to draw more than two or three
Yeah.
anyway.
They got a point, getting like someone like, Otani or Judge to come play and this cornfield basically is a
Right.
pretty major accomplishment.
It
So
is.
hats
It
off.
is.
Hats off to the glories of capitalism.
Oh, talk to me about Roy. I mean, we've talked a lot about capitalism, but I really like how Roy. I don't even know how to phrase it quite. I mean, he definitely has regrets and is looking back on life in a seemingly regretful manner, but he doesn't actually seem like angry or sad about it as much as he's like, I don't know. He's being
I think what it
reminiscent,
is yeah, I think he realizes it's too late to change anything, that he's
Right,
on his way. So it's not so much that like he's angry or bitter. It's more just that he's recording the things he wish he'd done differently. He's
right,
talking to the universe about his life. He's having a really, I think, important conversation between himself and the universe about how much his life meant to him and about how he wishes it had gone differently.
right,
He's, in a way, his death is sort of his father confessor,
right.
and which is precisely what the kind of story I wanted to tell, was like just somebody being frank about what life meant to them. And for most of us, it's some combination of like gratitude and regret. It's like I'm so glad I got to like
Yeah,
know these
that's the
people.
word
I'm
I was
so
looking
glad
for.
I
Gratitude. I mean, even with the regret, even with a seemingly um mundane, bordering on meaningless life, he looks back with a fair amount of gratitude. You
yeah,
know,
and I think that's important too. It's like that life is not just regrets. It's
right,
also these things happened or I was exposed to the things I really value. And now that it's coming to an end, I'm grateful for having had these experiences.
yeah. I mean, I
It's
never
it's
get the sense that he wishes that he hadn't lived, and
no, I think he
that's almost
dies
what you
really
expect sometimes,
happy.
right?
I
You
think he has
know,
a really happy ending, and I think he really wants. I think in a lot of ways this is not like a sad ending at all,
right?
because he gets is it's almost like the universe says back to him, I've heard you,
Yeah.
and and it was not for nothing.
Right. Well, and this is where I also tip my cap to you because I think the only book that I was more surprised managed to end with a relatively happy ending than this one is Walking Dead. I thought there was no way Kirkman was going to end that on an up note, and particularly not an up note that felt authentic. And he did, and like I cried. I was so happy. um,
Yeah, that's a hard landing when you're writing Walking Dead to
yeah,
and to not end on a downer.
right. I don't think that gets brought up enough. I think everybody only talks about how, he brought the ending out of nowhere, blah, 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 because he did the fake solicits, etc. It's actually exactly where I expected it to be because it was the perfect length for four of those phone books. And it was so clear that he didn't have another phone book in him.
Yeah.
I was
I'm
surprised when they were
amazed. I'm
solicited.
It's one of the most impressive feats in comics that
Yeah,
he has made Walking Dead that sort of relevant and that
right,
sort of readable for as
right.
long as he did.
Well, and
That's
again, by
incredible. That's
ending it the way
incredible
he
long
ended
form
it, he
storytelling.
also made it rereadable. I didn't think there was any chance that I'd ever want to read Walking Dead again. Just because as brilliant as it is, God, is it heart wrenching on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Um, but with that ending, while I haven't reread it yet, I know that I will because I know that. I mean, I used to say that the difference between Walking Dead and Saga is because Saga is from Hazel's viewpoint. You know that it doesn't all burn down.
Yeah.
You know that
The
whatever
narrator's
heart,
proof that
no what,
some
yeah,
sort of
no matter what heartbreak there is along the way, the narrator is proof that it has a somewhat happy ending. And there was like no promise of that in Walking Dead. And I
yeah.
couldn't even see the possibility of that in Walking Dead. And I couldn't see the possibility of that in Traveling to Mars either until, and this is where John Lee's taught me how to do this. When we go into super spoilery area is when we say, if you haven't read this book, please pause the recording. Go read Traveling to Mars. If you can't get the single issues, they are available digitally or the is it a trade paperback or a hardcover out next month? I forget. One of the two.
There's a trade, but there will be a hardcover made available through a Kickstarter campaign.
Oh,
So you'll have
then I
your
won't
choice of
buy the
both.
trade
Yeah,
right away, but I will be all over that hardcover.
great.
Thank you for letting me know, because I would have bought the trade hard right away. And then I would have wound up buying Traveling to Mars 4 times.
I'm not complaining, but yeah, there will be a hardcover.
um, so spoiler alert, pause. Okay, if you're still here, talk to me about your decisions with the AIs. Um, First, the ones on the ship, and the way that, despite the fact that they were activated on the ship, they grew up on the ship, they really did grow personalities, feelings at a level that is almost scary to think of AIs having, etc. But then once we've talked about them for a moment, the real surprise, and when there started to be an inkling that there was possibly a happier ending than we thought there was going to be, the rovers left on Mars. Uh,
Yeah, well, I think that this is, like intelligence does not exist in a vacuum. That really who we are is the experiences we have and how we choose to respond to them. And that is our personality. That is who we are in essence. Is uh, our choices of what to take and leave behind from what we've experienced. And that's what, the rovers become as the story goes along, from being activated, basically being toddlers, babies,
right.
to being fully formed personalities, because they've experienced so much in their time with Roy, and they are the sorts of roles they've had to take on. Albert is much more, I think, afraid and kind of naive and needs more looking after. And Leopold is more sort of like the leader and the one who's like sort of the protector. And I think it's because this is like what they're how these are the different parts of Roy they've taken on as like sort of their one sort of example of what a creator or a human being is supposed to be. And Roy is both of those things to them. And I think it is an incredibly hopeful note that these AI chips that they're able to bring to Mars and allow the rovers on Mars to create new new beings, that these aren't just going to be carbon copies. These aren't just going to be robots. They're going to be living organisms creating their own personalities on this planet as they, as Roy would say, give the universe an experience of itself.
Because that uh, discovering that there were that many organized rovers, bots, some of them kind of created or bastardized on their own, um, on Mars, was a surprise when I read it initially. Though as I was rereading it, I saw that you telegraphed it. You telegraphed it, and I think it was issue 4 when you talked about the the rover that sent the message back was 7 years beyond when they thought it would last, but it had been programmed for self-preservation, and like how cruel of a god would program something for self-preservation and then send it on a suicide mission.
Yeah, which of course
Um,
is my commentary on how we've all been programmed.
right.
Uh, but um, but yeah, I think there's a number of clues that this is going to be the ending. There's also some panels as they're loading the Mars rovers where you actually see them carrying the box of like AI chips onto the lunar rover. So there's some clues that this is going to what's going to happen. Because I didn't want it to just come out of nowhere. I wanted, when it was revealed, this is how the civilization of rovers on Mars is created. I wanted to feel people to feel like, well, of course. I didn't want to feel out of left field or something that I
Right.
just sort of
And
made
it
up
didn't. I
to
mean, it was
have an
surprising,
ending.
but not impossible.
Right. I
And
wanted to feel natural. Like, oh, well,
right.
I think this is what's the hallmark of a good ending is it's surprising, but it's it feels at once sort of like it
It's
couldn't have
not
ended
head
any other
scratching.
way.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Surprising, but completely natural.
Right. Right. I totally agree. And you landed it. I mean, I think I actually wrote you after issue 9 to start lining up this issue and was saying to you, I have how many issues do you have left? Because
Yeah.
I don't know. I,
Well, it's a weird number. But
Because half
initially,
of it was I didn't know. Part of me was like, how are you going to fill that space? And part of me was like, if you
yeah.
fill that space, how will you only fill that space?
Well, and initially I'd planned for 10 issues, but
Right.
one of the advantages of, working with a company like Ablaze is that when it turned out I was going to need 11 issues. The story was going to be longer than I thought it would because I wanted to include all this stuff. They were like, okay. So we made, well, I'm not aware of any other 11 issue series
Not
out
off the
there,
top of my head,
but
at
but
least not on
allowed us to make an
purpose.
11 issue series just because we wanted it to be expanded like that. Yeah,
Right. Um, Talk to me about a
sort of
Blaze, because
splash pages.
right.
Oh, about Ablaze?
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
no, there.
because you've worked with at this point you've worked with Marvel, you've worked with DC, you've worked with Ahoy, you've worked with the Blaze. Have you done Boomer Image yet?
No,
Because you have
but I've
done
done
Dynamite.
Dynamite. I've done uh Vault.
Vault.
I've
That's right.
done Mad Cave, or I'm doing Mad Cave
Oh, you're
as of
doing
yet
Mad Cave.
unannounced. I've done just about,
Mad
yeah,
Cave
I've
is
done
doing
most.
like ridiculous stuff right now. So I'm
Yeah,
excited to
no,
hear you're
I'm
doing Mad
excited to
Cave.
see what they're. Yeah, so
You've
I've
done
done a lot of
AWA.
publishers. AWA, yes.
For that matter, we should talk Death Ratio briefly before we're over, but not yet,
Oh
because
yeah,
I wanted to ask about because Blaze is an interesting publisher. I mostly know them for their reprint work. That they reprint a fair amount of European stuff. They reprint a fair amount of manga. I don't often go, oh, there's a new US based Ablaze series that I must pick up. Um,
yeah.
so how did you get
They're very
hooked up with
small.
Ablaze?
Well, because I was working with an Italian publisher, Studio Rancia, who provided Roberto Melli, who did the art on this, and they kind of shop around for the publisher. And Ablaze was very interested in it. And the thing that sort of attracted me to Ablaze is that it was sort of a smaller, more independent uh, publisher that would allow me to do things like take 11 issues or to tell a story that's mostly, one man's diary on a one-way mission to his grave without, interfering or asking me to write in more, you know, laser battles or anything like that. They're very hands-off, very much willing to let me just tell the sort of story I wanted to tell. And so to me, that was like exactly what I was looking for the story, because the one thing I knew I wanted to do was to do it right, to make it the way I had originally envisioned the story. And sometimes that means going with a smaller company.
Right. Um, and Roberto Melli did a fantastic job,
Yeah, he's a find.
and
I think he's a
and
really good artist.
I had never heard of him as looking at League of Comic Geeks right now. Um, in their database, he has like 5 covers and Traveling to Mars.
Yeah, he's also, I've got him doing a variant cover for me for a Batman Dark Age,
Okay,
and
gonna make me
turned
buy
into
a
a
second cover.
sketch for
Oh
it. And
no.
it looks really wonderful. I don't think it comes out till 5, but yeah,
Okay.
if you want more Roberto Melli, and who doesn't,
I
there's some coming
I
up in Batman Dark Age.
I do. I do. Though I mean, there's a difference between being a cover artist and interior artist, and he is an impressive
He's a
interior
fantastic
artist.
interior. He's a fantastic interior artist
And I
because
just realized you have a Paul Pope cover for this week's Batman Dark Age.
oh, do I? I
You
didn't know.
do.
That's crazy. Full circle. Yeah, because it doesn't surprise me though, because usually Mike is the one who sort of nominates the artists to get variant
Right.
covers. I will nominate some too, but usually Mike
Right.
is kind of in charge of determining who gets the
Well, I mean
variant
that's
covers.
not always, but that's often the way it is. Just because artists hang out and know
Yeah,
each
they
other,
know
and
artists.
also get to the point where they
Yeah,
They always show
they
their
got buddies.
face, you know. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
and
I
you
mean,
know,
what?
and it's not like he's giving. It's not like he's giving it out just on the basis of like liking people. I
Right,
mean, right, we're getting amazing variant covers,
right.
but yeah, it's like he's. But I think the Paul Pope thing is probably, Mike probably the one who like put his name in
Yeah.
the hat.
Um, so is Roberto Italian, Spanish,
Yeah,
Italian?
Italian.
So, um, have you worked with a creator that you weren't able? I mean, first of all, does he speak English? But beyond that, I would imagine that there was. I know that like some of the creators you've worked with, you've been able to work closely with because you live in proximity, that sort of thing. I'm assuming that it's harder to do that with somebody who lives 8 hours
Even when you
different
know,
time wise.
I'm working. I've worked a lot with Mike and Laura Allred, and they live 2 hour drive from me, and they live in
Right.
Eugene, Oregon, which is where I grew up, incidentally. But
Right.
even then, like 99% of the time, we communicate via email.
Okay.
So it's not really that much different to work with an
Okay.
artist in Italy as it
Okay.
is to work with
I thought that that
artists here.
was possible, but I also, one never knows if there's language
Yeah,
issues or
I he speaks very good English.
okay.
And we actually met. We were he was at New York Comic Con last year,
Okay.
so we got to hang out and have dinner together in New York. I got to meet his girlfriend, and
Very cool.
that we all hung out and had. It was really nice. I would definitely be up for working with Roberto again on something.
Okay. Very cool. Um, Tell me about as my cat decides he's going to bite me rather than climb on me. Tell me about Death Ratio.
The Death Ratio tells the story set in the near future when social media has basically replaced the legal system, meaning that the only
Oh,
crime there really is having more people disapprove of you than approve of you. And if you get too many dislikes, then the neck bracelet everyone wears at that time explodes. So it pays you to stay on the majority of people's good side. And which sounds dystopian, but you find out there are actually much worse things afoot in this society. But it's sort of a satire on
of course there are,
social
because it's a
media.
Mark Russell book.
Yeah, it's a satire of social media and the effects that this mass consciousness we call social media is having on our behavior.
I mean, this is the dirty secret for those of us who not only read you religiously, but then get to talk to you. I don't think there's a darker, more realistic in mind in comics than yours. You're very good at making it
I'm not
funny
sure
when we
if
read
that's a compliment.
it. I don't know
Well,
if it
thank you.
is either, Mark. But you make
Yeah.
it funny, and that's a compliment. I
I
hope
think I
that
think that's
that
the
also
key.
helps you be healthy because I mean, your mind is so dark
Yeah.
that I sometimes I'm like, God, I hope he's got a good therapist or whatever else it takes to stay sane.
Well, I think writing is the therapy, unfortunately. It's like but doctor, I am Pagliacci. But a lot of it is that it's if I were to write about these subjects without being funny or at least trying to be funny about them, it would just come across as despair.
Yeah.
And that's not very helpful to anyone.
No, but it's still a special talent to be able to. So much of fiction is pure escapism. It's we don't want to despair about this world that we're living in, so let's live in a different one. So to be able to look at realities of the world and write about them with humor, write about them with hyperbole, but not necessarily as much hyperbole as we'd like it to be, which makes it more of a warning. Um, but a swallowable warning because it's not preachy. It's let's laugh, but let's think, is a real talent. Um, I mean, it's something that I've loved about comics forever. Is comics have always been political. Comics have always been social and social justice. You know, um, I sometimes wonder if you could
You know,
even
what are you writing about if you're not writing about the world around you? I mean,
right.
what else? What other stories are there to tell?
I agree, but I think it's also um I think there's something about the juxtaposition of the words and the pictures that makes it hard not to tell authentic stories, to
Well,
make
the good thing,
lack of authenticity stand out like a sore thumb.
the advantage that a medium like comics has over something like, say, the medium of film is that it does have the words combined with the pictures, so you get this interiority of somebody reading a caption and you being able to sort of like narrate the story with your own thoughts, in addition to the visual medium of like the flow of images. So unlike film, I mean, I know there are some films where there are narrators and whatnot, but in comics more than any, you get to a direct pipeline to the mind of the writer, the images.
Right.
In novels, in prose, of course, you get a lot of that interiority, but you don't get the visual flow of information. In a movies and TV, you get the visual flow of information, but not much of the interiority of what the creator's
Right.
really thinking, what they really want to say to you directly. In comics, you get both of those.
Yeah. So as we're running up on time, I'm going to go with two final questions. No, three final
Okay.
questions. We'll go with three, um, just because I like threes, but also because I came up with a third. Um, earlier you talked, or well, off the air earlier, you talked about traveling to Mars really being one of your top three works that you've done. What are the other two?
I would say Exit Stage Left, the Snagglepuss Chronicles,
Oh,
definitely
so
one of
good.
them, and Second Coming. I think those are the
Second
three I'm
Coming.
most proud of.
I adore Second Coming as well. So two
And
amazing
I don't want to rank
choices.
them because I feel
No,
extremely
I
proud of
wouldn't
all
even
three of
try.
those.
I almost feel bad asking for the three on the air, but I
Yeah.
would absolutely not ask you to rank them. That's like way, I there's like one question that Brian Bendis won't answer, and that's like, what's your least favorite work that you've worked on? And he's like,
Yeah.
I won't say it because
There's somebody out there who loves it.
right, exactly. He's like, I used to sometimes answer that question, but then I had a kid come up to me at a con with a book that I wasn't particularly proud of and tell me how it changed his life, and it was his favorite comic that he'd
Yeah.
ever read, and I'm like, okay, I can never
That
bash my own work ever again.
that's one thing as a creator, you really always have to sort of concede to the reader. Like their judgment is always right in the sense that whatever value they take from something is completely genuine and valid, regardless of what you intended.
Right. Um, so my next question is, what are you reading lately? Books, prose, or
Yeah, I'm
comics?
reading
What have you enjoyed
uh
the most lately?
I'm reading a book called Finite and Infinite Games by the philosopher James Carse, who suggests that life is divided into games that he calls finite, meaning they have rules, they have a winner, and you play to win. And then there are infinite games where the goal is more like to just keep play alive and to they don't really have rules, they don't really have a winner. They're just sort of fun to do. Like playing a game of chess with somebody versus playing catch with your father in the park. And
Okay.
the problem is that people don't really know how to tell when something's a finite game versus an infinite game. It's really kind of fascinating. It's a philosophy book that looks at life through the lens of like game playing. And I'm also reading Go Tell It on the Mountain by James Baldwin, which is a novel loosely based on his own life. about a child who comes up in the household of a black preacher in Harlem in the 1930s and 40s. And I just love his writing style and his
I love
social
James Baldwin.
commentary. He might be yeah, he might be you know, one of my he's definitely one of my very favorite like public intellectuals who talks about American life in
Yeah.
the 20th century.
And then my favorite question to ask everybody, and I know I've asked you before, but it's definitely one of those questions that I think can change. So I'm pretty certain I haven't asked you it in at least a year. Tell me a comic that you love, that you wish more people had read, if for no other reason, so that you could talk to them about it,
Oh
write
wow.
with them about it. If for no other
Yeah, I
reason than
think
if I haven't read it, I'll
for
go read
me, one of my
it.
favorite, yeah, one of my favorite graphic novels of all time, and whenever I talk to people about it, they've never read it, is Dropsy Avenue by Will Eisner. And it
Oh,
just tells the story of this property,
yeah.
of this
Oh,
like
yeah.
plot of
Oh,
land that
yeah.
he grew up on.
Oh,
But it goes
yeah.
back to like the Dutch
Hmm.
settlers on Manhattan
Hmm.
to like, in the 1970s and all the different inhabitants of that area. You see like just how much New York has just been sort of this sort of like landing spot for all these different populations that have come since then. And it's an amazing because it's really is about like the places that that make us. And it's got this sort of generational cast of characters, and and it's hard to describe, but it's just a brilliant, I think, look at how much a given place just means to us, means to people.
And it turns out it's not one of the ones immediately on the shelf near me, which means I
Oh,
probably read it and didn't put it back on the shelf. But yeah, I love almost everything that Eisner's done, but it's way up
yeah, Contract with God also has a lot of
on,
references to the 55 Dropsy Avenue, the building he grew
right.
up in,
Oh, and
but
actually,
Dropsy Avenue is specifically about that area.
I think I recently bought a hardcover of the Contract with God trilogy, which has Contract with God, A Life Force, and Dropsy Avenue. So
Oh,
maybe I
wow. Yeah,
may,
that's gonna,
that I think is in a box over there. Um, I think my favorite Eisner work, and we talked about it recently because it's one of Dennis Kitchen's favorite things that he ever published. And unfortunately, I got mine without the dust jacket. But have you seen the Life in Pictures? It's an anthology that it's essentially the autobiographical stories. So it's got
no.
Sunset in Sunshine City. It's got The Dreamer, To the Heart of the Storm, The Name of the Game, which is actually about his wife's family, and The Day I Became a Professional.
No, that sounds
Um,
great though. I'll have to
it
check
is.
it
It's
out.
it's a fantastic, and that's one of the great things about. I
But
mean,
yeah, like you, I love his work.
yeah, I mean, Eisner. I mean, it's worth having the individuals, but one of the great thing about Eisner and the fact that he's got so many er, works of different lengths is that you can collect them in different ways around themes, and that's a cool thing to do to make it. Oh my God, there's a critical edition of Contract with God, a Norton critical edition. I might have to get that at some point too, just because I'm curious as to what got added in for the Norton edition of Contracted God and Other Stories of Dropsy Avenue.
Oh, that's yeah.
See, this is yeah. No, we need to I need to do an Eisner. We've got book clubs on the podcast. That I love being able to talk to creators or even just friends about comics. I think that with any work of fiction, but particularly with comics, the final collaborator tends to be the reader. Um,
Oh yeah,
but that
absolutely.
but that also means that when you read things together and then talk about them, you get to see things that you didn't see otherwise. And it can be a great experience. And I'll have to do that with Eisner at some point, and I'll definitely look you up when I do because I like Eisner files.
Yeah. I know it's
Um,
he's obviously in the pantheon of all-time
yeah,
greats, so it might
yeah.
seem boring, but yeah, I love his work.
Well, I mean,
Hmm.
you don't just because you're great doesn't make you boring.
Well, no,
Baldwin's
and I think
in
there's
the
a reason
pantheon of
why.
all-time greats, and he's not
Yeah,
boring.
exactly. No,
You
reason why he's
know,
there.
right. And it's always fun, I recently discovered and had to track it down. He did. Have you ever read his Don Quixote? It's
No.
not even like a full Don Quixote. It was like I don't even know how to describe it, except that it's more of his interacting with Don Quixote than, but like perfect Eisner, perfectly quixotic, and it's you know, so yeah. Thanks. I'm gonna have to reread Dopsy Avenue because it's been a
Yeah,
while.
you should.
Um, and it's always great to talk with you, Mark. Like I said, this week we have Batman Dark Age #2 and the collection of Rumpus Room. Traveling to Mars, it looks like is actually August 6th. Does that sound right?
No, I thought it was
I
May,
thought it was
but
I
what do
thought
I
it was
know?
earlier than that. So yeah, let's look at a different source really quick. Um my bad. What's
My Bad
the
Volume 3 comes out in May.
yeah, I forget the subtitle of that one, but yeah, that's starting in
Uh, Escape Peculiar Island.
yeah, there we go. Comes out in May. Do you have anything else on the horizon that's been announced?
Death Ratioed.
Death Ratio is that's also May, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, early May.
Blaze is saying, well, that's no good because Blaze is saying that it already came out.
All right, I'll try to get a definitive answer on that. I thought it was like mid-May.
We'll hit previews really quick.
Yeah,
I started from League of Comic Geeks because I was already there, and then I pulled up a Blaze because I thought your publisher would have it, right?
you would think.
But they say it came out in February.
No.
Traveling, it says July 24th on uh previews, which
Huh.
is the Diamond
They
site.
might have
So
delayed it then because I was told May.
yeah, I thought it was earlier too. So something like that. If it comes out earlier, I know I'll be mentioning it on the weekly episodes. So we will definitely
Yeah.
keep anybody who actually listens to all of our episodes. Hi, Mom. Hi, John. Um, up to date on when it comes out. And again, Mark, thank you so much for joining us. And until the next
Thank
time,
you.
we'll see everybody on the next page.
All right. Bye-bye.
Hey guys, this is Tyler from 22 Panels. I'm here to tell you all about our Patreon. If you enjoy this show, please consider donating to our Patreon to keep this show going. We have many different tiers, all different levels to help you decide what's right for you. Okay, so get on out there to patreon.com/22 Panels Podcast.